Hi, I'm Sashwati Sarkar and you're watching TOI Eduthon. CBSE's open book test for class 9 will be launched in the next session, and the real question is very simple. Does it push students beyond cramming to actual thinking? We begin with what the previous pilots really showed. From there, the why. The board's intent and the specific skills this format should build. We'll also get into the craft of doing it well, the need for teachers training, rubrics that judge interpretation over memory, and whether schools outside metros have the bandwidth. Our discussion will also cover how papers must change, the likely roadblocks and fixes that work, and a no nonsense prep routine for students, and more. For this very crucial discussion, we have with us today Miss Sudha Acharya, Principal, ITL Public School, Dwarka. With over 30 years of experience, this expert in inclusive education contributes actively to CBSE initiatives. Dr. Acharya is the recipient of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Award, State Award for Principal, CBSE Award, National Award for Services to Disability by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. We also have with us Ms. Minakshi Kushwaha, Principal, Bilya Vidyaniketan, Delhi. She is a CBSE resource person for its capacity building workshops and has authored various manuals. She is a proud recipient of the prestigious awards State Teachers Award, Excellence in Education Award, and the Green School Award by the Directorate of Education, Delhi. Recognizing her dedicated and exemplary services, CBSE conferred its prestigious award, Honor for Excellence in Teaching and School Leadership, on her. We have with us Ms. Asha Prabhakar, Principal, Bal Bharti School, Noida. She's also the chairperson of National Progressive Schools Conference, a 51-year-old association of senior secondary schools across the country. She has been an integral part of various innovative and novel initiatives of CBSE, Center of Science, British Council, Expressions India, etc., and is frequently invited as a guest speaker at various prominent educational conferences and forums throughout the country. Welcome to all of you to the show. Thanks a lot for your time. I'm sure we are going to have a very insightful and exciting discussion about this open book test. Ms. Acharya, we all know that CBSE is planning to start open book tests for class 9 from the next session. You have been a part of CBSE's open book pilot earlier too. How did it go? How did the students perform? What are your observations?
Actually, earlier also CBSE piloted this open textbook assessment in 2023 for subjects like economics, biology, and English, maths. It happened so. And a particular curriculum or the chapters were given by CBSE and the resource materials were also given by them. But the scheme failed because of question pattern, because we did not train teachers before starting this initiative. This time they have done little bit preparation and teacher training is ongoing. They have already started and lot of collaboration is going on. So 24 May, I think they have again started this, and it is always better to go for pilot at a small scale. Like they have started in class 9th only, where board focus and academic rigor is not there. So class 9, we have internal assessment. All of us, we do that, class 9th and 11th, which are important, or class assignments. So they have started from there, from internal assessment, and it started only for English. I piloted for English in class 9th and 11th. So this time I found there is a change in the quality of question paper design and the kind of resource material they provided us in the pilot scheme, and the feedback of teachers and the rubrics which I received for the assessment. So the pilot started in May 24, and then we have given our feedback. Maybe CBSE is working upon it, and I would say that for training, they have collaborated with Azim Premji University and other university also, where they're sending teachers. It's a 4-month online courses. Then they go in campus, and the whole focus is item writing, designing question paper, framework of question paper, designing your rubrics, and how we move from grade. So all these trainings are given. So I'm sure it will help definitely. So when I piloted this in May 24, it was a very good, happy experience for students. They have given very positive feedback. I have also taken feedback from teachers. They were all very upbeat and optimistic. If it is really implemented properly, it will be a success because it's a global standard practice. If you see other parts of the world also, Australia, England, and Finland, you will see this open textbook analysis more so in university, but in schools also they have already implemented successfully. So if it is done by CBSE, it will be very good, I think. So to start with, I'll rest my argument here.
Thank you for sharing with us the experience of the previous pilots that you have been part of. Now I'm moving on to Ms. Prabhakar. Ms. Prabhakar, from your lens, what's the core objective behind CBSE's open book move? What learning outcome is the board targeting?
Thank you, Shashwati, for putting up this question. As Sudha said that her school is piloting this project, but I was just reading in the papers that this pilot was also introduced by CBSE a decade ago, and it was stopped because the reports said that the students couldn't develop critical thinking the way it was envisaged. Starting with the OBA, book is a support tool, not a substitute for preparation. And since the governing body of CBSE has taken this decision to restructure its assessment, thereby giving less impetus to memorization. But, I was wondering while I was traveling, from NTA to school, that memorization has got its own advantages. As a young school going girl, I could memorize the entire Madhushala, and it really helped me in honing my literary skills. But at the same time, when we talk about the learning outcomes which we are going to attain through this open book exam system, so for anything, we do not teach presently, this is a general statement which is being made that we do not teach our children how to think. So while we think, application, analysis, and synthesis of information, a child must be able to do. So keeping in mind, why the CBSE is introducing is number one, the board is targeting that a child is able to have conceptual understanding, that what is the idea behind something, like not just its definition or formula be known to the child, but what is actually conceptual understanding. Also, how a child is able to do the critical thinking and the analysis of information. Let us say that you are reading a news article about climate change. So you can ask, what are the causes? What are the benefits? What data supports it? And that helps you to decide how much to believe what you are reading. So that is what they are thinking, that the child should be able to develop critical thinking and application. Yes, application plays a very important role. You can use what you have learned in your class, in your book, to solve new or real life problems. Like, I can give you one example. While we were studying maths at school level, we all used to hate trigonometry because I used to think, what is the application of trigonometry? We had even named our teacher as theta, that theta is going to come and make our life miserable. But then as I grew, I came to college, I became a professional. I slowly learned, being a medical student, that yes, trigonometry has got its own application, that for medical imaging techniques like MRI and for CT scan, for reconstructing the images of the body, it plays a very important role. So application, synthesis, creativity in a child, all these are the learning outcomes which the CBSE is targeting. And one of the reasons which we keep reading in the newspapers is that it will lower the stress and boost confidence into our children. But I personally feel, when you aren't forced to remember everything by rote memory, then you feel more relaxed. You are able to think clearly. There's less of anxiety in us. So also, I think the OBA, the learning outcomes which the CBSE is thinking, is that it will reduce dependency on rote and memorization, and Also, it will lead to some kind of resource management about information literacy. That is, you know how to find needed information, that how to flip the book, a notebook, and filter the relevant bits, ignore the irrelevant part, use good sources, manage time during the exam, or refer to the material without losing time on it. So all these things a child needs to learn, and I think it's a great idea of reintroducing and restructuring the assessments through open book exam. I rest my case here.
Ms. Prabhakar, thanks a lot for the personal anecdote and that, the name Theta. I think all of us in our schools have done this. We have named our teachers, some teachers for a certain reason. And I think even as professionals now, you understand, like, when sometimes you may maybe getting to know that you have a name amongst your students. Maybe sometimes you enjoy that also, that you have our
Yes,
students
yes,
and
of course. We all see our mimicry when the schools celebrate Teachers' Day. The other day, I was talking to Sudha only that I think you were mentioning, Sudha, that how the children were mimicking various teachers in the during that special assembly we've had in our schools. And you know, Shashwati, I will here put up a very classic example. One real life example. The other day, I read it in a newspaper that one of the doctors didn't know how to differentiate between spirit and kerosene. So, doctor diagnosing a disease, you know, these are certain examples that medical textbooks, they are not going to help if you do not understand and if you do not have the basic knowledge, if you are not able to apply that knowledge, or if you are not able to evaluate or do the synthesis of the information. And I think OBA is one such effort where it will help to a certain extent our children, you know, to apply knowledge and to evaluate and have the real life applications, which is a kind of a skill to your entire persona.
Right, right. So, talking about skills, I'll come to you, Miss Kushwaha. What specific thinking skills do you think open book tests or open book assessments help to build in a student? I mean, starting from planning where to look, connecting ideas across chapters, and applying concepts. How do you think? Which specific skills?
So, Sashwati, this is a beautiful question because we are talking about the skills hugely these days, and the entire focus of education is on building skills, whatever be the kind, be it be 21st century skills, majorly that's what we are talking about. So, the open book test wants us or the students to go beyond the routine recall system. I've learned something, there's no need to recall it at that particular moment when I'm writing an open book test, but it is, of course, to be able to apply. Recall in the sense of applying and then recalling, okay, but then applying it at that moment to get the answer. And of course, being able to analyze, being creative. Yes, the topic should have been understood well, only then you will be able to find your answer. And connecting it with the real world problems, situations, all this comes into the open book test so beautifully. And it is the analysis of the previous experiences to get the answer, to read in between the lines or whatever you say. But at the end of the day, the child should have studied the chapter well to be able to find your answer on the particular examination day or examination time. One should have read the entire chapter very well, because these days we are seeing that children are not wanting to read the chapter. The text is not there into their minds, but when they know that this has to be, this might come, or something in between which needs to be applied has to come, then I'm sure they will thoroughly read the chapter. Today, I had a session in my school on preparing children for the UPSC exams, and the bureaucrat who had come very clearly said that the NCRT textbooks are kind of, Bible to crack the exam, the UPSC Civil Services exam. So, with this, I think when children go to class or pass out of school, then they buy the NCERT textbooks and start reading them because they are preparing for the UPSC. If they have read the textbooks well and they have found answers, they have also created questions from the same text. I'm sure they are never going to forget. So, the biggest skill they will develop through this is, of course, flipping through the pages, plan, etc., etc. But to read well, to read in between the lines, to be able to analyze, to be able to apply, to connect it with real world problems, situations. And I think this is going to take them way high in life because 50% of the training, I would say, or preparation, I would say, is done at school level also for the UPSC Civil Services exam because they will never forget. This way, they are never going to forget. It's going to be there with them. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you. And this is a very important piece of information that, and him saying that NCERT books are the Bibles for cracking UPSC. That's great.
Yeah, he said that he passed out from an ICSE school, and when he started preparing, the first thing he did was buy those NCERT textbooks of school and go through them. And he said he did go through them 50 times, 60 times types also to really, it was grilled into his system. Page 82, this is it.
Oh, right. I have an uncle, he is no more with us. He was the professor of history so I come from West Bengal, though I have been living in Delhi for the last 20 years. I come from West Bengal. So for any history query that I would have, I would always, nudge him. So he, in his room, in his bedroom, he had around 2000 books. The entire all the three walls were a book rack, and he used to remember by so rack number 3, book number 12, this is the book, and here you go to this page number, say 72, he would say, you'll find your answer. So I used to go to his place sometimes because anything about history, and he has had a very peculiar interest in also hunting and many other subjects. And I was amazed to see he had read all the books that were there in his room. Apart from that, he also used to read other books, of course. And throughout his life, he has always got 30% discount from Oxford. To get 30% discount from Oxford, you have to
Buy a lot.
Right. Yeah. So now I am moving to the very crucial aspect of an open book test. Mr. Charya, what specific training do you think teachers need to be able to design and assess open book question papers successfully?
See, before the new education policy and as we say NCFSE, secondary education, the whole system of education was teacher centric, teacher at the center of education. But now the whole scenario has changed, the whole ecosystem has changed to child centric, where we are moving from content based to competency based. So as Asa said, textbook is a tool, not a crutch to hold. Like earlier, the teachers used to finish the syllabus means completed the chapter, the questions given behind the chapter, finishing it and thinking that the syllabus is done and I have done my duty. So now a teacher, when we see the lesson plan, you would see the teacher has given 10 website links to refer to. Teacher has given one article which has come either in TOI or Indian Express or Hindu to go and read, to watch a video. So this is the change. So now we have done away with chapter wise teaching. The textbook is a guideline, is a tool. So we don't anymore follow, even from foundational stage, from nursery and KG, we are doing concept mapping. So we take one concept and then the maths, language, EVS, SST, science, everything, music, maybe biology, everything is integrated. So that's the way of teaching learning practice is going on. So in that, the teacher mindset and the classroom management with time management, because when we talked about open OBA, I saw when class at 9th and 11th were appearing, the most important thing is open educational resources were available to them. As three of us are from progressive school, we have all the infrastructure, we have very good educational resources, and the resources given by CBSE were available, made available to the student. As Meenakshi said, have we really developed that skill to skim through educational resources and find out the apt or the relevant portion which is relevant to the question? They may open the textbook, but they would not find the answer. So first thing is training the teachers. As we were talking about, recalling is not wrong. I mean, we say Shruti and Smriti in Upanishad. So Shruti is important, listening and Smriti is also important. What is changing in OTBA is no direct recall question. The WH kind of question. We are moving from what to how, what we should learn, and what is the theme of learning, to move to how to learn. So the onus of study now we are giving on the students. Teacher role has changed from imparting information to a mentor or coach who is facilitating the students what is wrong, what is good, and where they should focus. And mostly the teachers should be trained on action research, because when you see OBA questions, these are scenario based, case based. If I talk about my own subject, economics, now Trump has imposed 50% tax. Okay. So we have done taxation and subsidy. And now in India also, after that, the GST policy has come. What is the impact on Indian economy of Trump's taxation? How pharmaceutical company is going to be affected? How agricultural products are going to be affected? Children ask me, ma'am, the gold rate will touch 2 lakh, I think, per 10 gram. Why it is so? So am I ready to give that answer, or do I confine myself to that textbook, which is a tool in my hand? So first thing is teachers training to change the mindset that finishing syllabus is not our job at all. So inspiring students, that inquisitiveness, that curiousness, we have to ignite them in students and give them guideline handholding also. Like I said, we give them a video to watch and then frame 7 questions, or frame a brochure. If you want to visit to Jaipur, then what are the things you want to see, why so many monuments are in Rajasthan, instead of asking what are the monuments available in Rajasthan. So the child has to think. Even during COVID time in maths also, we did lot of intrapolation and extrapolation. The trained children were mapping that it starts from Kerala, then coming to Mumbai, and where all, and how the data is driven. So like that, if teachers are oriented towards action driven, research oriented, we can give lot of. And that skill you are talking, most important thing is collaborative skill, where OTBA is making students collaborative. They study together, they prepare together. And referencing skill means how to use the reference material. Open educational resources are available in plenty, at least with our hands, like the progressive schools. So do have we really trained our students how to skim through within time, how they can use those resources and answer those questions? So teachers need to train on asking open-ended question. There is no right, no wrong answer. So when you put this kind of question, again teachers need training how to grade them, how to evaluate them, how to frame the feedback. Because as there is no right and wrong, children can give their judgment, their opinion, and justify that. So teachers need to know also how to create that feedback, and then how to assess them. So teachers training is the most important thing. And the designing question paper or item writing is an art in itself, art and science, I would say. So training is very, very important there for me. Teacher training, then only it will be successful and implemented properly. And in the classroom management and mindset, I said, even I oriented parents thought that it is very easy. Book is available, so many resources are available, so cheating may be possible, but OBA deters cheating. So you need to orient also parents. It is not so. It has a different purpose. As we talk about experiential learning, hands-on learning, or we are doing a lot of Shark Tank and encouraging innovation. Children every day coming up with new innovation, new strategies. So we need to give them platform through this. So in 10th and 12th board exam, perhaps this kind of, what should I say, experimentation may not work, because our country is so large and it is not standardized. We are talking, sitting in Delhi and talking about OBA, and we have huge divide, digital divide. There are schools where single teachers are there, single teacher is there, one room classroom is there. So in those cases, there is a huge urban rural divide also. So in that, teacher training plays a most important role, and to bring everybody into one uniform platform, it really takes time, money, effort.
Thanks a lot for guiding everybody, all our viewers, on what they can expect in terms of teacher training for an OBA, open book assessment. Now, I'll move on to a very another very crucial aspect of open book exam, as Ms. Acharya was already talking about the digital divide and other disparities and other the diverse nature of India as a country. We move on to the next question about around this. Ms. Prabhakar, global experiences show that evaluation in open book exams is far more complex. Markers need to judge interpretation, not memory. So, do you think Indian schools have the bandwidth and expertise to align assessment rubrics with this, especially in the rural belts? We have a huge urban-rural divide in every aspect of life, not only in education, also in healthcare access, and other very, very crucial aspects of life. So, while talking about whether or not we have the expertise for assessing such a test, we also need to focus on the urban-rural divide in this aspect.
Thank you, Shashwati. A very pertinent question once again. And yes, there is a rural and an urban divide. And I personally feel that the rural schools may or may not, I'll come back to this later, that why I'm using the term may or may not have the bandwidth, but the urban schools, this kind of bandwidth is attainable. Like Sudha said, that we are progressive schools, and for us to make the open book exams is quite possible. And when I say that in rural schools, it may or may not be attainable because they have certain compulsions. And as Sudha said, that book is a support tool and not a substitute for preparation. And while taking this statement forward, I was trying to check the UDICE data. That students from class 9 to 12, if I was to consider their population, 70% of the population lives in rural India. So when we talk about the success of open book exam, we have to definitely take into consideration this 70% population. So now coming back, for making this open book exam a huge success, we need to have clarity. We need to work with speed. We need to educate our teachers that what is the how the students are going to smartly use the textbooks in a open exam setup. And most importantly, that mostly the rural teachers are highly committed, and children, we have seen and we've witnessed that they outperform urban ones when they have the foundational and the infrastructure available. But again, I am going to lay emphasis on teacher capacity and assessment literacy. When we talk of these things, designing and reliably scoring the open book exam questions, which involve basically interpretation, application, analysis, they require teacher training. And basically, teacher training is required in question design, rubrics, moderation. And rural schools, especially which are located in very, very small areas or undersatisfied areas, what happens is that they lack this sustained capacity. And because they lack this sustained capacity, whether OBA is going to reach to these 70% of population, but yes, let's be positive. There is a lot of reference material. There is a lot of material available now with e-Rashtriya Pustakalayas. The content is available to the rural children also. And at the same time, though there may be a digital divide, when we say a digital divide, better internet devices or access to supplementary coaching and resources may not be available to them. But when we talk of the availability of mobile, we say that there are more number of mobiles available than the number of toilets available in India. So I am very optimistic and very hopeful that our rural population, with their mobile phones and with their kind of digital resources and with the help of e-Rashtriya Pustakalayas, and of course with the capacity training of the teachers, where they are able to design questions, which is something very important. Like Sudha was giving an example that they show a video and from there 7 to 8 questions are being drafted by a teacher in a classroom setup. So similarly, when we talk of rural India, this kind of a setup, this kind of a teacher who's been trained on evaluating, and the rubrics has been defined to her, the parameters have been given to her, she has been given that kind of training. I think then in rural India, this kind of OBA exam is going to be successful. So basically, I will sum it up that if we want to take OBA to rural India and make it successful, they have to have the kind of preparation which is required, teacher capacity. There has to be a resource access, which is very, very essential. And assessment systems and guidelines have to be very clearly defined, not only for rural schools, but for urban schools also, because we are also struggling for the kind of guidelines and kind of modality which is to be implemented in the classroom. But the urban schools have structural disadvantages. They do not have the kind of infrastructure which the urban schools have. So there is a strong potential. We are not denying the fact that the rural schools are not going to implement OBA. They have a strong potential, and once the infrastructure is available, their libraries are available, basic foundational skills are available, moderation processes are available, I think it's going to be altogether a successful attempt, which the CBSE plans to introduce from session 2026.
Ms. Prabhakar, thank you for your detailed answer. Just one more aspect that I would request you to highlight on. While we were talking about, what about the assessment part of OBAs, my question initially had this part also. What should a teacher keep in mind while assessing an open book test? If you could just highlight a point or two on that part.
Yeah, assessment has to be a very different ball game here. So while assessing, there have to be defined rubrics in the mind of a teacher. Number one, she should be very clear with the exemplar booklets and moderation panels. She should take the support from there before scaling OBA. There should be trained markers, and OBA should become subject, so that the OBA is subjective and not very unfair. Also, in order to assess, the teacher should also provide resource kits. She should curate herself. Like, I can give you example of my own school, where we have a content repository. Out of that content repository, we create our own questions. We draft our own questions for our children. Another thing, I think, to run pilot OBA cycles with strong moderation in a representation, one should collect data, and rubrics play a very important role in assessing a child. The rubric guidelines should be available with the teacher.
Right.
Now, secondly, it should be based on knowledge. It should be based on application. It should be based on critical thinking. It should be based on synthesis. It should be based on, these are certain learning outcomes which she should check while evaluating a child.
Absolutely. Now we are coming back to the very important, I think the most crucial important aspect of an OBA apart from teacher training. It is also aligned to teacher training. So, Ms. Kushwaha, what should teachers keep in mind while setting a question paper for an open book test? In what ways should it be different from that of a regular test?
See, first of all, I think that when we are getting into the open book test, testing phase, it is very important that we have the system in routine classroom, regular teaching learning process. We can ask children to design questions. Once children start designing questions, keeping the open book test concept into mind, the teacher will get an idea that how smart are children, and the teacher and the taught will probably grow together into this the journey which will just start on open book testing. So children will be in the process of making questions. Children will also be understanding what is open book test, how to go about. So that is one thing. Now, what should teacher keep into mind? You know, every board, every examining body has a blueprint already in place, which the teachers even today keep in mind that there has to be something for everybody. The very weak children, the middle children who are not very bright but okay, and then something for very bright. Then we follow the Bloom's taxonomy, that what is the percentage of creativity that has to be kept into the question paper, the application, understanding, all that has to be kept into mind while designing even the open book test paper. And one thing I always tell everybody, that you design a question paper keeping into mind that I am wanting to know how much my children have learned, how much have my children learned, rather than to find out how much have they not learned. So, if we set up a paper keeping all these things into mind, the rubrics and the blueprint, I think this gives us a very clear design. Prepares the teacher very well that how should she design the question paper. And then, of course, some classes it has to be, I think, sometimes a particular class is very good and a particular class is not good. So have a heart. Your questions should be should be for everybody in the classroom. That is extremely important. And the expectations should be communicated very well by the teacher to the taught, that this is what I am expecting. And the blueprint must be very clearly explained to children so that they also come prepared. Some children might be good at understanding, might not be good at application. So I think as a teacher, I will always tell my children, okay, 30% of my paper would be on understanding based concepts. So kind of, handhold the children that, okay, even if you are good at understanding, you have understood the concept, you know it well, you will not be flunking. So this would reduce the stress on children. It's very important that when our children come to write the tests, they are stress-free and they should be happy coming here. A lot of practice should be done in advance so that, again, beating the stress is something very important. And, when we are setting up the questions, we must need to have critical thinking rather than simple recall. That is, we all agree, we all have been saying. But some element of recall has to be there. It can't be no, 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 totally about that. So these things should be kept in mind while setting up the paper. I don't see that there is going to be a very different kind of question papers when it comes to the what exists today and what will exist then. But maybe it's the old wine in the new bottle. The same concepts we are asking in some other way. But yes, children have to be prepared very well for all this kind of thing, focusing on higher order thinking skills, Children have to be prepared on higher order thinking skills, application, creativity, and some open book questions, some open-ended questions are very important to understand. Uh, there are children who think differently, but they're also right. So these things will give us a window where we have something for everybody. The idea is, again, I repeat, to know what child knows and not to tell us or him or her that you don't know this. But yes, good preparation needs to be done for this so that while flipping through the pages, children are able to understand, comprehend the question well, and get us the answer from that.
Thank you, Ms. Kushwaha, for such a detailed and well explained answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
So now we'll move on to the uh, very important aspect of open book exams or open book assessments, that is implementation. So, Ms. Acharya, what are the real implementation hurdles for open book tests in Indian schools? If you had to fix three things, what would they be?
Okay, let me start with the questioning in case of OBA, how the question should be. If suppose we are giving a set of data or two options and ask students to compare, to contrast, to discriminate, to find out the similarities, to spot pattern and make their own judgment and then answer. So basically, I'm talking about synthesizing and then evaluating and creating something new. So we are mostly moving in the upper ladder of Bloom's taxonomy. So in that case, then three challenges which we are talking about, three of us. First one is, of course, teacher training. And so I'll come right one, pedagogical shift. We are talking about assessment only. Without pedagogical shift and curriculum shift and classroom management, mindset, and orientation, evaluation, and feedback skills. So for me, three most important. First one is pedagogical shift, where it was content heavy earlier. So now we are mostly going for in the foundational stage. We say that it is play based, it is toy based, it is early childhood care education, mostly inquiry based. In the middle wing, we are exposing them to a lot of vocations, vocation in education and education in vocation. We are saying so a lot of information they can process during middle wing as there is no accountability, no focus on board exams. So this is the stage when it should be experimented. The experimentation should start and they take it very nicely. And when we come to real assessment in senior classes like 9 to 12, where already we have shifted our teaching learning practice, as I say, pedagogical shift, then we come to evaluation part and the feedback skills. Students should be given proper feedback, how to write or how to really attempt the question paper. Half of the problem is solved if you know how to attempt the question paper. We always tell our students and advise our students that read the question paper twice before you start writing, because in your mind you organize your answer, and if it is not directly from the textbook. So there are two types of OBA. What CBSE is doing, restricted OBA, where the material is coming from OBA. Earlier when we piloted that, so curriculum was coming in economics, it was there. So India, Pakistan, China in Indian economics, one huge unit was there. So that was taken because it is happening subject. So the budget of India, Pakistan, China, the demographic index, the civilization, everything is coming. Flora, fauna, geography, everything was coming. So a lot of research could be done. So the material was coming from CBSE, but the questions were not up to mark. We saw that questions were not research based at all. So that means the teachers have not put in enough effort to create that inquisitiveness, to create that curiosity, or to let the student action research oriented, to find out, to explore India, Pakistan, China in every sphere, and then come back and synthesize and write the answer. So that happens in every subject. So when we talk about evaluation and feedback skill, students have their expectation, parents have expectation, even as teachers also we have our expectation. So everybody's expectation has to be spelled out loud and clear. And then the last one is classroom management and the mindset about OBA, especially in India, because we are just starting with this time in May 24, when we started the 9th and 11th that day, we are very elated, very happy, taking it very easy. No stress, ma'am, no stress. It is open book. You will be giving us all the material. When they saw the question paper, then they thought that, oh, we have to think and then write. We have to do a lot of comparison. We have to do a lot of spotting the pattern and make our own judgment. So there is no direct recall question at all. It was based on recall, but indirectly application based. So, but when they completed, when I again met them, they really enjoyed. They said we enjoyed attempting the paper and we found some challenges there. Students never like that the question paper is directly from the textbook and they write the answer and everybody is scoring in 90. That should not be. So that gray matter is not coming to use at all. So they wanted that challenge and they really enjoyed. So three things to fix. First one is pedagogical shift. Second one is classroom management, mindset, expectation of all the stakeholders available in the educational scenario. And third one is training, of course, teacher training, evaluation, and feedback skill. These three, if we can fix, and as we were talking about rural urban divide or digital divide, that can be taken care. If we believe it will happen, it can be successful. Once we pose doubt or we have suspicion that, okay, these are the impediments, these are the hindrances, it may not be successful, it will not be successful. So if we once think in rural areas also, lot of experimentation can be done. They can do lot of hands-on learning. Like our scenario, our demography, our environment is different. It is different there. So while we teach economics, we give examples. Suppose say here in Delhi, I'm teaching, my examples will be very different. And if I'm teaching in a tier 3, 4 city, then my examples will be very different, which is relevant to them. So that mindset has to change, including parents' mindset. So these are the three things:
Okay.
pedagogy, training, evaluation, feedback skill, classroom management, and mindset.
Thank you, Ms. Acharya, for such a comprehensive answer. It was like, bullet points which we should keep in mind. Thank you. Uh, Ms. Prabhakar, now I would come back to you. Uh, how do you think students should prepare differently for an open book test? Their preparation method, how should it be different from a regular test? What would be your top three suggestions for them?
Yeah, so my friend spoke about three hurdles, and how she's going to fix, and she proposed five very wonderful points. Now, it's a very good question which you have put up to me, that how should students prepare differently for an open book test? So for an open book exam, the biggest mistake the children make is, as Sudha also pointed out, that they don't need to prepare for the exam because the answer is in the book. That is the mindset with which they come to appear for the exam. So in reality, what we've discussed in this last 1 hour is that the open book demands higher order thinking skills, analysis, and quick retrieval of information. So if you were to ask me three suggestions that how should students prepare differently for appearing in an open book exam, number one, I would suggest is, what is their approach for the exam? That is, they should read the questions very carefully, plan the answers mentally first, and also remember that this exam and the book, it is just a supporting tool and not the main strategy. Number two, organize and familiarize yourself with the open book exam. That is, prepare yourself with sticky pads, with index within your textbook, so that you don't waste time and keep flipping through the pages during the exam. Also understand concepts and practice application, because the entire exam and the questions will be based and you will be tested on application, analysis, and interpretation, not memory. This is very important point which is to be kept in mind. And students should practice writing answers using the book, notes in hand, so that they learn to combine concept and examples, which is very, very important. And remember, knowing where something, knowing how to use it, when to use it. When we were school going children, I still remember we used to get an exam wherein we used to have kisne kaha, kab kaha, kyu kaha, kis liye kaha. We used to have these kind of questions. So we were prepared because the concept clarity was there. So understand concepts and practice the application part. So this is the third point. And prepare always for a smart reference pack. That is, your notes while you're appearing for the exam should include formulas, theorems. Since I have a science background, so I'll always talk about formulae, theorems for maths and science, maybe frameworks for business management and for commerce students, and one-page chapter summary for the humanities students. And most important is time management and answer framing. These are the points which I would like to suggest. That is, approach the exam, organize and familiarize yourself with the exam, understand the concepts and practice the application, prepare for small reference packs, and always your notes should include your formulas, frameworks, and one-page chapters. And organize yourself, don't memorize. That's something very important.
Thank you again, Ms. Prabhakar, for very, very precise and to the point suggestions that you have shared. Yeah. Now we are moving to the concluding question of our discussion, a very critical one once again. Ms. Kushwaha, do you think open book tests hurt slower readers or encourage page flipping instead of thinking? What two easy fixes would protect rigor and keep things fair for all students?
Yes, I think if the teachers are not trained adequately, this could hurt the slow readers, and they might be then demotivated because they're slow readers, they're slow learners, and they are not able to catch up well. So, a lot of practice and guidance is required on the part of teachers. And, there's a skill that you tell children to not read word by word or sentence by sentence, but just, browse through it and you get an idea. This is also a skill that needs to be developed amongst children. But yes, the slow readers might get affected, but then that's how, where the teacher's patience and guidance and all, the children will have to be trained to manage the time, to read fast, to be able to comprehend, to all these skills will need to be developed over a period of time and with proper guidance and practice. So teacher training is again very, very, very important here. And to begin with, maybe, somebody is reading slow but is able to listen. So we start from listening. We read out for the child and let the child be able to answer. So that confidence has to be developed in the child because reading comes after in such children. So let's focus on listening first. The same chapter, let the people who are good at listening be able to listen and get the answer. Once they get confident, I think the situation would improve. You've asked me two easy fixes. I think the first one I would bat for is that teachers teach less and empower children more. It's very important that our children are empowered. Let them ask questions. Let them ask questions from each other. Let them, and teacher also should ask questions keeping those skills in mind. Children can be prepared. Okay, I'm going to test you on the kind of questions, application-based questions or observation-based questions or critical thinking-based questions you are going to design out of this one paragraph or a chapter. And this can be a test. The best questions or most questions or clear questions which need observation and all. Let other children kind of, mull over it, that how was the question this particular child asked. So the one who's asking is trying to ask the best question, keeping that skill in mind. And the ones who are rating the question are also very critical about it. I must think something that this child is kind of told that your question was not right. So, a healthy competition between the children empowering themselves would be, I think, a very good idea, because at the end of it, the children have to write the paper and they have to understand. So, when they are asking questions, they know how to answer it also. And again, teacher training, I'm coming back to it, is the key to success, because a teacher has to uh, frame questions which involve proper integration of subjects, let's say, which involve proper analysis of the question. Group discussions can be very good examples for this. Leave it open to children to discuss, and they will come out with small points, small things which everybody will listen and understand and appreciate. So these are two things which come into my mind, which will help us scale greater heights when it comes to open book tests. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kushwaha, and thanks to all of you for your time, inputs, and insights. You have, I'm sure this conversation will lead students into thinking. I mean, much before they take on that open book assessment or test, this conversation, of course, they'll have the chance to go through it. This will lead them to think, and also it will be a food for thought for parents as well, to how they can guide their words at home for a test like open book, for an open book test.
Yes,
Thanks a lot for
Aswati,
your
just
time,
one
and
line I wanted to add here.
yeah,
We
yeah.
were talking about slow learners and how they can, but I saw that it supports diverse learners. I think Asha would agree with me. Diverse learners, because students, they learn at their own pace, own style, and they have their different strength. Like we use multiple intelligences. 8 multiple intelligences, or there are kinesthetic learner, auditory, visual, and all those things. So, like in the beginning, we were giving you anecdotes, both of us, different example how they would. So I saw that OTBA was far more conducive for all these kind of children who have different pace of learning, who are not going through a standardized test. Within 3 hours you have to do all these things, and but we are assessing them with a different rubrics, with a different scale, and looking at their strength. So we saw that it supports really diverse learners. That's what I wanted to point
Uh-huh.
out.
And it's told, Sudha, I was just about to give this kind of a concluding remark here, that how is it going to apply, to the special category, and you're so very right, and it's going to really boost their spirit in the classroom setup. Concept maps, mind maps, flashcards with key points, these kind of practical applications and interpretations will really help them. Though CBSE, I think in my concluding remark, I'll also say that CBSE has made this exercise optional for schools. It is not mandatory. And yet the guidelines are to come. But I think this is a very relevant point, Sudha, that whether it helps the general category or not, or whether what the reports suggest that it's not being able to develop critical thinking in our children. But here I agree with my friend Sudha that the special children, the special category of our children, they're going to be immensely benefited out of this.
Thanks a lot to all of you again, all over again, for not only sharing sharing your suggestions as formal advices, but also sharing personal anecdotes and personal experiences. But because I mean, any personal experience is always, it enriches a suggestion. It backs it up with more validity and authentication. Thanks a lot.